You're listening to Sidelines on your sound alternative, KVSC.
Yes, it was the end for UMBC. The Retrievers took the L against K-State, and they took the W against the Wildcats of University of Kentucky last night. We'll get into that in a few minutes. This is Sidelines on KVSC 88.1 FM and Charter Channel 180. Thank you for the TV people waiting on us all the time. I've got a beautiful panel today. I got Thomas Breach. Thomas Breach is in the house. It's been a minute.
It's been months, years, weeks since I've been on Sidelines.
Yeah. We got Colin 2Ls Rakowski too. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited to be here as usual.
As usual. Then my man Nathan Daggett. How's it going?
I'm doing good. Right, similar with Colin.
Yeah.
Happy to be here. Excited.
Yeah, we haven't smoked much since basketball season ended, so it's nice to talk some more hoops. And then we got Jack. It's been since like the first semester since you've been on. I think this might be your second show. Yeah, the first week. How are you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
How's now that you've had a bunch of months under your belt here at St. Cloud State, how do you like it?
It's a lot of fun. I think I've got opportunities with UTVS.
Oh
and,
yeah, for sure.
The hockey team's doing good, so that's always a fun time.
Yeah, that hockey team, they play at 3 today,
Yes,
I believe.
three-
At 3
3
at
o'clock,
3
yeah.
o'clock. Me and Thomas are kind of the same way. When it comes to hockey, we're just kind of
Baseball plays this weekend.
baseball plays. Basketball's done. We know that. But no, about that hockey team, congratulations to them making it as far as they have. Hopefully they can keep it going. That will be on 88.1
That'll be right here.
live. With AJ Fredrickson and Caleb Forsberg. So, yeah, that'll be a good time. Anyways, we got so much action to cover. Let's start with a little March Madness, though. Let's run down some surprises of some teams that you guys that are here still. What do you guys think?
Definitely, I'm surprised by Loyola, of course, but however, there's always that one team that seems to just find their stroke right in the tournament. Even if you're hot going into the tournament, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to play well in the tournament. We saw that with Virginia. They were playing out of their minds the whole season. They hadn't even allowed 70 points in a game until that first round loss. So Virginia was a very big surprise, and Arizona too, my favorite team in the tournament, taking a big L in the first round. Both of those teams were playing very well, winning their respective conference championships, and then just flunking out in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, just like what you said, I think when those brackets came out, especially in that South region, everybody was talking about, Virginia, Arizona, Kentucky, and now they're all out, and it's like a bunch of high seeds. So in that region, it's pretty much anyone's region or to go to the Final Four.
Yeah, I think 3 out of the 4 teams that clinch a spot in the Elite Eight are big surprises. I mean, you're guaranteed a 9 seed or higher to be in the Final Four now. So I was very surprised because I did not have Nevada winning, or I did not have Kansas State winning in the first round. I didn't have Loyola winning in the first round, and I didn't have Florida State winning in the first round. So all 3 of those teams were very surprising.
All right, Thomas, if you have one, like, if you're picking teams on a bracket, are you picking for like the coolest colors, or because I know
Whoa.
I know you're in baseball
Whoa.
season right now. You're in baseball season right now. I know you're not paying too much attention. Or are you like picking on what kind of animal they are? Come on, give us a rundown.
Oh, come on, Will. I have a little bit more basketball knowledge than that.
Oh, I know you do.
No, I don't really follow Division I college hoops
Yep.
quite as much as I used to. For me, I was just kind of going off of what I know of the coaches, what I know of the teams in general. And all I know is that was an awful idea, I guess, because my bracket is terrible.
Yeah.
It's awful. I don't think I have a single team left.
Oh. Well, that just for some reason doesn't
Surprise you?
No, I think if this was the Division II men's basketball tournament, which the St. Cloud State men's basketball team performed very well in, which was very fun to call, do you think you would go 100%?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
I don't.
Maybe baseball. I could pick regions for baseball.
You think you could hammer down over 90% for baseball?
I'd say 80%.
80%. We'll test this. I'm actually interested.
I'll do it.
I'm ready for that. I want to see that.
Yeah, I'm excited for the baseball tournament for sure. I always like that college baseball tournament as well.
And the Huskies are looking like a pretty solid Division II team right now.
They're
correct?
very, very injured right now. 3 All-Americans out for the year.
Sure.
But, yeah, they're one of the most talented teams in the nation, really, at the Division II level. They'll be a Central Region team for sure.
Sure. Well, we'll keep it on the college basketball kind of swing here. A question that I have, whenever you see a Cinderella story. Now, we've actually never seen this kind of Cinderella story where a 16 seed knocks out the number 1 seed, UMBC, over Virginia. Do we think there are any players that potentially first, second rounder in the NBA draft this season?
I would say that player on UMBC that hit the game-winning shot to get them into the tournament. Lyles.
Yep.
I think he's shown some stuff this tournament.
He's and that's kind of what I would have said too. He's a shifty kind of guard from what I've watched, and it's literally just 2 games. I've literally only watched 2 games, but he seems like a playmaker and a scorer. So he could have a shot in the NBA. I also agree with that.
See, I'm not too big on prospects from the Cinderella teams, obviously. However, I just want to bring up the fact that Nathan Poole, who is projected an undrafted player, hit the game-winning shot, a freshman too even. A freshman hit the game-winning shot. He shouldn't have even been on the floor because they were benching some of their starters for that last shot even. And Nathan Poole comes out on the floor and hits that crazy game-winning 3 at the buzzer. And
they only have a rotation of 6 players.
Right. But he wasn't.
That's crazy.
But
and then you bring someone else on.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, building off of that, I actually saw a stat yesterday that Poole kid shot 1 of 10 on 3-pointers all season.
For the season.
Yeah.
So the fact that he made that with a guy
in
his face was pretty impressive. But I mean, making 1 shot doesn't mean you go from undrafted to first round. So,
right.
And I don't know. I think most of those bigger schools, like Ayton from Arizona, he's still the projected first pick in the draft.
He's a
Just
stud.
because they lost to Buffalo doesn't mean his stock goes down. And,
Absolutely not. That brings something else into this conversation is, you're talking about draft stock, and you see the higher prospects are coming from teams where they're maybe not the only piece, but they are the team.
Yeah.
They are the team. And that speaks to March Madness basketball. If you have that kind of roster where one guy is kind of making your team, you're not going to perform well in the tournament. And that is shown this season. I think the biggest example is Purdue. They lose their big guy Haas. Next man up, the 7'2" guy, can't even remember his name. He goes in there and lights it up against Butler and the first round game. It's just crazy to see. Now that's a team. Michigan State, they got a team. They got Bridges. They've also got Nick Ward. Who are
Michigan's got a nice squad.
Michigan. We were just talking about before we got on air of how they are one of those teams where they're they weren't a favorite at the beginning of the tournament. They might be now though, just because you see how the teams are performing in the tournament.
Plus, they've been there before last year, of course. So.
And I think a lot of people were sending Michigan to their Final Four when the brackets were released. I actually had Houston beating Michigan. So obviously, I've seen Michigan play, and it seems like they always make a good run in the Big Ten tournament and then lose in March Madness before that first weekend is over. So credit to them for making it to the Elite Eight.
See, I picked Michigan to go to the championship in 2 of my brackets, and they're still pulling through. However, Villanova kind of didn't really play very well, so that's out. But like I said, Michigan, they were a team that not a lot of people were talking about. They were a dark horse in some cases, but not a lot of people were talking about them to win it all with a lot of confidence. And like I said, they're a team that's been there before. Last year, they won back-to-back Big Ten titles. I mean, they're probably going to be good for a while. Even if they lose some of their players, they're still going to be a good team just because they're Michigan and they have the coaching staff that knows how to win basketball games when it matters.
You also talk about good teams. I would say Loyola is in that consideration. They got a nice
and they got
team.
Nice matchups too. They
they've
had Nevada.
got lucky.
And, they didn't. They're considered an underdog there, but
They beat a good Tennessee team. That was
yeah,
a tough
they did.
Tennessee squad.
Tennessee is a tough squad.
Admiral
They're-
Schofield will be
they
a
were the
stud.
Third
third seed. So that's where Michigan's at right now. So if you want to do that kind of comparison, you can. So just to wrap up some March Madness talk, because we got some other things to talk about. What's been the favorite moment so far? And we cannot use the 16 over the 1 seed. I'm assuming you guys have been watching.
Yep.
For
Are
me,
you
it
singling
was,
someone out here on this panel, Will?
No.
for me,
What's your favorite
yeah,
moment, Thomas? Thomas, you go first.
When I took my bracket, I burned it and I threw it in the trash.
All right, I like it.
my favorite moment was probably that Nathan Poole buzzer beater. That was wild.
Nathan Poole.
Yeah, I was
buzzer beater.
watching that at Garvey Commons, and it was just nuts in there when he hit that. It was insane.
Okay, I'm going to retract my statement from before. It can be from the 16 in the 1 seed game, but it can't be the fact that they won the game.
Garvey Commons went nuts.
Yeah.
Garvey Commons went nuts, man. It was wild.
That's actually my favorite moment. I claim
It was
that.
wild. All right, Nathan.
I'll go with Nevada. I think I watched that when they played Texas
Yep.
to come back, and then to come back against Cincinnati. I mean, we
They
were
were
watching
down
that game.
25
Yeah, we were
points
like,
against
this game
Cincinnati,
is
right?
over.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah,
come
I-
back. And considering they only play like 6 guys or 7, I mean, that's pretty
tough.
good considering the squad they got.
Yeah, I'd say for me, I had the same thing in mind. I was watching that Nevada versus Cincinnati game, and I was lying down, not really into it at all because it was a 22-point game. And within about 2 minutes, I think it went from 22 points to 9 points, and I was on my feet, like, getting hyped because I wanted to see them complete the comeback. Now, obviously, the 6-man rotation was kind of what hurt them yesterday as players got into foul trouble and obviously losing to Loyola. But that Nevada team with 2 big comebacks, I think only leading for like 5 minutes in the NCAA tournament in those first 2 games. So
I've got one moment, or well, 2 moments kind of mixed into one, and they're from the 16 seed and the 1 seed game.
The one you said originally that we couldn't.
Yeah,
figure out.
and then I remembered what my actual favorite moment was. I was like, oh, crap. So on the bench, later in the game, UMBC hits a 3. I can't remember if it's Moore or Lyles, but it's one of those guys. And you see the bench start dancing. And they start doing the best mates from Fortnite. And I started losing. I was like, dude, my roommates could care less about college basketball. I start kicking everyone, pushing everyone. Dude, they're doing the dance. They're doing the dance. And then everyone kind of gets into the game, right? And then after the game, the dude is interviewed. And the question is, kind of what's the feeling or whatever. And he's like, it feels like when you get your first VR in Fortnite. And I think that's just the greatest thing ever. I don't agree with him as of knowing what it feels to get a VR. I would much rather be in his position. That would be so cool. But we're going to push it on into some NFL news. I want you guys to take a little listen to this and see if you agree.
Who do you think was the best player in the NFL this year?
Sheldon Richardson.
And why is that?
I'm him.
Sheldon Richardson. The Vikings have signed Sheldon Richardson from the Seattle Seahawks. What do we think?
I love the signing. I think the Vikings have a top 3 defensive line in the
I
league.
think we've got the best defensive
I
line
don't
in
know.
the league.
The Eagles, though, I mean, they're
I
always
think
going to be
Kyle
there.
Long's not going to be there.
I'm
They
excited.
have Michael Bennett.
He's trash.
I'm excited
Okay.
to see a Vikings defense with a healthy 3-tech.
Yeah,
The defensive tackle
I agree.
spot.
I agree.
I mean, Geno Atkins in Cincinnati, anyone?
Tom Johnson had been getting it done for the team.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's no Sheldon Richardson.
He's no exactly. But I will salute Tom Johnson. I'm really thankful that he all the years that he spent with the Vikings, mostly because he come in halfway through the season and perform. He was one of the best pass rushing defensive tackles in the league, and he was able to get it done when we had injuries. And a big part of the 2018 and 2017 defense.
I think I heard this, when they brought Richardson in, and they showed him film of some of the stuff that he's been doing in previous years and how Zimmer and this defensive coaching staff can improve and make him so much better. And I think that was a great pitch to try to get him here. And it's a 1-year deal, so it's not like you're committed to him long term.
Yep.
And it's a smart deal for both sides because if he doesn't if he wants to get paid bigger after this, he likely will, because this is a good spot for him to bet on himself on a 1-year deal.
And we flip-flop it. Tom Johnson goes right to Seattle. He signs a 1-year, I think it was $2.7 million. The great, well, you'll hear it.
Mr. Burgundy, I want to
Yes.
thank you for coming out here to Connecticut to do this audition.
Thank you for having me.
Basically how it's going to work is we're going to have you do maybe about 2 or 3 minutes of a mock broadcast.
What is the name of this network again? Espen?
No, ESPN.
Yeah,
That's a terrible name. Hello, sports fans.
Yeah, the great, that one was reported by ESPN and then Bleacher Report, so that was cool. I just want...
And Ron Burgundy.
Yeah, I had to find a spot to put it in the show. I was kind of running down before going on news, I was like, I got to get Ron Burgundy in there. Some other bargains, though, in free agency thus far. I want to talk about Tyrann Mathieu going to Houston Texans, man. What a sign. I mean, do they still have DJ Swearinger, or does he play for Redskins now still?
I think he's on Washington now.
Yeah, Washington, sorry. So what do we think about Tyrann Mathieu? Will this make a big difference on that Houston defense?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That defense 2 years ago was the #1 ranked secondary in the league. Jonathan Joseph is a great corner. They had A.J. Boye, who's now on Jacksonville, of course. But that secondary was lethal 2 years ago. And adding Tyrann Mathieu, they haven't had a great safety in Houston for a couple years. DJ Swearinger's a good player, but Tyrann Mathieu's a different animal. But I also want to bring up what Deion Sanders said to, I can't remember the guy's name. I think it was the safety for the Tennessee Titans, Kevin Byard.
Yeah, Byard.
Yeah, and Kevin Byard was saying that, or responding to Deion Sanders saying that Tyrann Mathieu's the best safety in the league, and then he responded with, how can you overlook guys like Harrison Smith, Earl Thomas, and Eric Berry? And Deion Sanders clapped back at him and said, blah, 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 you keep being a fan, I'll keep being the man. And then he didn't know he was an all-pro safety. And Kevin Byard just clapped back at him again, and everyone was just roasting him. But I also want to bring up the fact that Tyrann Mathieu, very good safety, but he is not the best safety in the league. But he adds a lot of firepower back to that Houston defense.
Harrison Smith's the best safety in the league.
He should have won Defensive Player of the Year.
He should have won Player of the Year. MVP, just give it to him. Just give it to him. Some other, actually, one that happened today, the Cowboys signed Allen Hurns. What do we think about, the Cowboys receiver situation? It looks like Dez Bryant's going to be there for another year. And what does this mean for Terrence Williams?
I think it was a good addition. I think we saw they didn't really have much of a passing game, especially. I mean, they had a good passing game. They just didn't have enough guys who can go out there and make plays by themselves and get open. I think it's a good ad.
Yeah, I think Allen Hurns is one of the more underrated receivers in the NFL. I mean, Dak Prescott is probably better than Blake Bortles, and I think if Allen Hurns was doing decent in Jacksonville, I think he'll even do better with Dak Prescott, as well as having Ezekiel Elliott, so teams are not going to have as many guys in coverage because they'll have to worry about stopping the run.
All right, I wanted some less breaking news, I guess, that we'll talk about in NFL free agency. Now that it's not hot off the press anymore, Kirk Cousins, he's here. He's in Minnesota. I'm assuming I guess I don't know when the off-season, activities start, but it's going to be a month, maybe a month and a half, I would assume, until that starts. Now that it's kind of settled in, are we still happy as Vikings fans?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
I think he was the best quarterback in this free agent class. Case Keenum was great. He got the job done when it needed. However, Kirk Cousins is just a different animal. This guy's thrown for almost 5,000 yards in one of his last 3 seasons, over 4,000 yards every year. Yes, he's had a problem with turnovers, but you also have to remember that Washington offensive line wasn't as good as the Vikings. Vikings don't have a great offensive line either, but there are a lot of strip sacks and fumbles last year that were caused because of poor offensive line play by Washington. And I think with the Vikings adding Tom Compton yesterday, they got on the edges, Mike Remmers, he might be moved inside to guard now that Joe Berger's retired. They got a good offensive line. It's nothing like the Cowboys, however, but I think they have a good enough offensive line where they can keep Kirk Cousins on his feet, and Kirk Cousins can go out and ball like he's been showing he has been with less talent on his roster the last 3 years.
You know, Kirk Cousins is a Viking now. Ndamukong Suh, I don't believe he's signed yet. He's I know the Lions are one of his kind of top echelon tier, you know, teams that he wants to go to. You know, is that a fit? Will that work?
With Detroit?
Yeah.
I mean, it might be a smart idea, but with their current situation with the new coach, I don't know if it's that smart to put all this money on a player when you're not really contending. So
You don't think the Lions are contending?
I mean, with this new coach, I mean, he has no coaching experience. We don't know how.
But you got Matt Stafford. You got the second best quarterback in the NFC North.
I don't know how you can contend when you have all these teams that are at the next level.
Yeah,
like
you add the
New Orleans, the
Packers,
Rams, Eagles.
I mean, there's a lot of teams out there. Like, if you go back to the Lions, you might finish last this year. I mean, the Bears have gotten better. I could see the Bears jumping the Lions this year, in all honesty. I could see it happen.
That's not going to happen.
I could see it happening. Crazier things have happened. I could see it.
Did you just say that Matt Stafford is the second best quarterback in the NFC North?
Yes.
I'd say Kirk Cousins is better than Stafford.
That's up for debate.
I'd say he'd be.
I think they're about.
Matt Stafford's won a playoff game, right?
He's so streaky.
But look at the teams that they've both been on. I mean, Lions are. You have to admit the Lions are better than Washington, as a team. In my opinion, I'd have the Lions roster over Washington.
I have to.
No, you don't. I'm saying you'd have to think
no, you
about
have
it.
to.
No. Do you know how you learn to count in Detroit? I can't steal that bit. I'm not even going to do it.
Oh my gosh.
I do think, though, he is the second best quarterback in the NFC North, followed by Kirk Cousins and then Mitchell Trubisky. I do think that number 2, number 3 spots very close because I think they're both horribly average. They're both horribly average quarterbacks. I don't know what to think about Kirk Cousins. He's got really good numbers. He's thrown over 4,000 yards for 4 straight seasons. He's got one 4,900-yard season. He's almost always had over 32 touchdown passes with under 17 interceptions, which are good numbers to have. But there's one thing he's missing. A playoff win.
Yeah.
And
Case Keenum's got to play
and an offensive line.
Oh my gosh.
And a competent head coach.
And
a competent run game.
And talented wide receivers.
Okay, that's where I disagree with you. They've got all the talent in the world in weapons.
So then why aren't they in the playoffs?
But not running back.
Are we talking about Washington?
Yes.
So you're saying you would... I'd much rather have the Vikings wide receivers than the
Someone
Washington.
asked me, do you know the receivers they've had over the last 2 years? Yeah, man, I actually do. They've had Deshaun Jackson, Terrell Pryor. They have Josh Doxson. Not to mention one of the best tight ends in the league,
they
in Jordan
had a guy
Reed.
who hasn't been good since 2010. They had a former quarterback turned wide receiver.
Yeah, none of them have played well there. None of them have played well. None of them have played well.
But
there.
to say that they don't have talent.
Yeah, they have talent, but they haven't
Jordan
played
Reed.
well.
Jordan Reed has played
I 100%,
very
I
well.
100% agree with Jordan Reed. He's an all-pro tight end, but like the rest of them have not flourished in Washington.
All right, speaking of flourishing, will Danny Amendola flourish with the Miami Dolphins? No, why not? Do we even know who their quarterback is right now?
It's going to be, I think Tannehill's slated to come back.
Is Matt Moore still their backup?
Yeah,
I think
probably.
so. I think they'll also be drafting a quarterback this year for sure. I think that's actually one of my dark horses in the draft to trade all the way up.
Pat White
maybe
and Tyler
not all.
Thigpen are still available, I think.
Oh, that's is Sage Rosenthal still on the board?
What is this, 2009?
This is more like 2007, man. But we're gonna mix it in with some hockey news because we live in St. Cloud, we live in Minnesota. I know we're not all the biggest hockey minds, but
Bruins are doing well.
What city are they from?
Boston.
Okay, here 1 second.
The Badgers before joining the Maple Leafs. Coyle has Stahl. Stahl's in alone. He scores!
All right, Eric Stahl, 39 goals for the Wild right now. I believe the record in a Wild uniform was set by Marian Gaborik at 42. Will Eric Stahl be the most scoringest Minnesota Wild?
Yeah, I think so. They got 3 weeks in the season left, about 10 games. I mean, if you can get 4 goals in 10 games, which obviously he's basically been doing a goal every other game.
He's been slapping them in, and I don't even watch, but I know he's slapping them. I know he's had a bunch of hat tricks since January.
He's
No, he's had
gotten
a
2.
bunch.
He's gotten 2,
Oh,
which
he's
is a
had-
lot. That's a lot, though.
He's only had 2.
But
Never
that's
mind.
a lot. That's a lot in hockey. You don't see many hat tricks, but
Okay.
I don't know. The Wild have been playing great the last couple months, ever since December. I mean, they started off horrible. I didn't think they were making the playoffs all the way back early December because they were just playing so bad. And then they started. Eric Stahl picked it up. Zucker, Granlund, and Stahl line. That line started to pick it up. And they've been on fire ever since. Dubnyk's been iffy at times. The defense has been iffy because they've had injuries. Brodin was hurt for a couple months. Spurgeon's out until the playoffs at least. They've had a lot of injuries, and that's been their biggest issue, is why they haven't been playing to their full potential.
Can we make a run for the cup?
Yes. If Spurgeon comes back, and we got to stay healthy, that's the biggest thing, because the Wild do not have a lot of depth. If they can stay healthy, they can get Dubnyk to play like he was 2 years ago, they can definitely make a run for it at least.
All right, to wrap everything up, we've got the Minnesota Timberwolves. 2 games ahead of the Denver Nuggets, who are in 9th seed. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games remaining in the season.
Good math.
2 of those games are against the Denver Nuggets, one on the road in the last game of the season on April 11th. Those are the 2 biggest games on the schedule in my mind. You got to win those games. You got to beat Utah as well. We have them one more time. Do we think we can make a run for the playoffs? Will we make the playoffs?
I think you'll see us make a run, but once we get to the playoffs, we might be so gassed that we don't have anything left.
I think the Timberwolves might win 1 playoff series.
Yeah, if Jimmy Butler comes back, they definitely got a shot at 1 playoff series win.
They'll run into the buzzsaw that is OKC and Corey Brewer. Corey Brewer for MVP.
Hey,
Thunder going
what's
all
the
the way.
record of the Timberwolves against the Thunder this year?
All right,
Like
guys.
3-1?
Well, we gotta wrap it up. We'll see what happens coming April and June. Thank you for joining us on Sidelines. Thank you to my panel, and thank you to UTVS.
Sidelines on KVSC FM and HD St. Cloud and KMOJ HD3 Minneapolis St. Paul. Don't touch that dial, because coming up next is the Afternoon Progressive Rock Show, where you can hear some of the best of new progressive rock.